Sebastian Stone, Professor Sebastian Stone.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Congratulations, brother.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Professor Mark promoted you to black belt. This how long ago was it? 3 weeks ago?
Yes,
3 weeks ago?
it flies by. Those
Flies
3
by.
weeks. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah. How long have you been training for?
At this point, it's probably been around 11 or 12 years, and that's including injuries all over my body, you know. But I love it. I actually like it more now than I did when I first started.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice. Good.
It's funny because when I first started, I started with a German guy named Ralph. He's now in Germany.
Oh, yeah?
He went
Ralph?
back to Germany, so we started.
Where in Germany?
Berlin. He has a school in Berlin. He's got a 10th planet there.
Okay,
And
okay.
every time I'd show up, he would just kick my butt. And I mean, to the point where I'm like getting angry at him, you know? But I stuck through it.
Was it no gi?
No
Just
gi, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just loved it. You know, there was something primal about it that just like connected with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm pretty sure everybody, you know, in our industry has some sort of like story like that where they just connect to it. Because in my 12 years here, I've seen people come and go. I think that's like most people, right? If we're going to say like 90%, there's a lot of people that just come and go, but there's only a few. To me, it's a lot, right? Because we're always here around each other.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's only a small percentage of us that stuck through.
Yeah.
What's the saying that they say? It's a black belt's only a white belt that never gave up.
That's it. Well said.
It's
Well
true.
said. Well, I appreciate you making the time to talk and hang out a little bit and talk about your journey and jiu-jitsu.
Thank you very much. I have questions for you too. You know,
Yeah.
backstory, everything.
Yeah. Getting your black belt, watching you get your black belt from Professor Mark Bradford. Like shout out to Legacy West Adams. You know, it was great, man. It was nice just to have for us all to be together. You know, makes it more like the energy in the room is crazy, right?
Yes,
With the amount of people on the mat and around all the black belts, right?
Yes, I've never been in a room with that many black belts, and it's and I don't. Obviously, you're used to that, but man, it does something to you where you actually say to yourself, hey. All of these years actually, you know, mean something. There's a family that you've cultivated, and I'm proud of it, and I'm glad that I'm here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's awesome, man. It's awesome. So going back to the jiu-jitsu journey, so you started with that gym, the German
Yeah, Ralph.
Rolf, right?
We called him the Germinator.
The Germinator. It's funny. It's funny. There was what's the name of the gym? I went out there years ago. It was the only jiu-jitsu gym in Berlin. I have the sticker actually in the front of the gym.
But I mean, speaking of that, I mean, you've seen it yourself. How popular jiu-jitsu has become. You know, from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, like nobody knew what jiu-jitsu was.
Right,
and now
right.
because of people like yourself, Joe Rogan, the UFC, like everybody knows what it is.
Yeah.
And they want to try it, but whether they're gonna stick through it, you know, that's a different
No,
story.
it's a different time, right? Professor Mark back in the day, back in New Mexico days, right? 25 years ago. Crazy.
25 years
Yeah,
ago.
because
Think about
then
that.
of this next year is 25 years legacy, and so Professor Mark was traveling up. We lived in New Mexico, so he traveled up from Albuquerque to Santa Fe, you know, to train. It was like 1 hour one way, 1 hour back, and it was the early days, right? And you didn't know where things were gonna go, but we just did it because we loved it, right? And now the UFC is on, man, it's on ESPN. It's a mainstream sport, right? And so people, you know, gets people knowing what it is, one, and then two, some people, I don't know if, you know, everybody that watches and wants to do it, right? But then there's like this jiu-jitsu thing, right? A part of the thing that you can really do, like full on, right?
Right.
In a good way, with a lifestyle, good lifestyle.
And what I like about it, because I train MMA and I train striking, you know, Muay Thai, but there's something about jiu-jitsu, right? You still get injured in all the sports. You still get injured in jiu-jitsu, but
It's a combat.
I'm trying to figure out what it is about it that it's just it just touches you, you know. It's just primal,
Yeah.
you know, just like fighting,
Yeah.
you know. Do you think there's any correlation to that with like how the society is right now, as far as like, you know, maybe gender roles when it comes to like men being men, women being men, women, things of that nature.
Man, one of the things that that is so real with jujitsu, like you can't be fake. You have to be yourself. You have to be your authentic self. And with saying that, like you just gotta be yourself. There's no faking it. You're not trying to be somebody else when somebody's trying to choke you or when you're trying to choke somebody out.
It
You gotta be a savage, or you gotta be like if you're weak, you're gonna get stronger because you're not gonna be able to hang. You're gonna end up quitting, right? If you're not in the right if you're not being the right person that you need to be.
Yeah.
And it changes you, right, with that.
One thing I do love, you are part of a team, but when it comes down to just like matches, it's just one versus one. That's it. And exactly what you're saying comes through.
Yeah. And one of the things I appreciate too about like Hansel Gracie in New York, he talks a lot about it. Just like you can have like the presidential candidate training with a homeless guy, but like a janitor, whoever, like everybody's the same on the mat.
Yeah.
Everybody's the same on the mat, like so you have all types of people, right? Like you don't know who's who and who's what, but I mean you're in the black belt club now, right? You got your black belt and you've shown a certain character, right? Quality that sets you apart from everybody else.
Yeah, well, the fact that I didn't give up, and plus the passion behind it too, and touching on what you just said right now too, as far as like you could have like a presidential candidate, you have the current president-elect right now who's like very, I hope it's like genuine. It looks like he likes fighting. He's always asking questions.
He's been one of the early supporters, like Dana White.
That's right.
He at the Trump Plaza, right, the Taj Mahal. Yeah, they had done their early UFCs when they had a lot of opposition. So he took a risk because he liked it,
Yeah.
And Dana White never forgot that because they were like, on the brink of bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And he like stuck his neck out for them, when he didn't need to.
And he's still there to this day. You see him at those UFC pay-per-view events, and I mean that says a lot about him too, because he's already running back and forth, talking with how many people, and he's still there, just showing support. And,
I think the story, right? Dana White, he asked him to be the speaker for him at the
yes, he was one of the speakers there. That's correct.
The convention, and then his wife was like, or I don't know if it was his wife. I think it was his wife. Was like. He's like, I'm vacationing with my family or whatever, something like that. And then the wife was like, you got to go to this or you're going to regret it, And she's like, he called him back like a minute later. Hey, I'm in.
That's how.
Because it means so much to him. And he's like you give back, right? When he's a loyal guy. So you give back to people that have given him.
And that late in the career too, that, he's put himself as a person that, is going to pay back or at least like get your back when you need it too. And that's I think that's hard to find nowadays too.
Yeah.
Especially with the instant gratification that we live in today with like, things like social media and stuff.
For sure.
How has, if I can ask you a question,
sure,
like,
of course.
How has
it's
jiu-jitsu changed like through your eyes? Because for me, I'm still like pretty much a newbie, like 10 years compared to people have done it like twice and maybe even longer.
Mm-hmm. How has it changed over the years?
Yeah.
I mean, back in the early or, the 90s, like when the UFC came out, 93, that really opened up the world to the power of jiu-jitsu, the world, the martial arts world, the world. Back in the day, it was just very underground. Even in Brazil, it was very underground. Only the people that knew, they knew. Of the Gracies and them doing it was so underground. And so in Jorge Gracie, Helio's son, right? He had the vision to market basically, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to the world. And the way to do that was to fight against other styles, right? And so those were the Vale Tudo days. Like anything goes, right? There's no rules.
Right.
Headbutts,
that's including knees?
Headbutts, everything, elbows, knees, no gloves, right? No time limits. And so like anything goes, right? Vale Tudo. And that's different. It changes things, right? When you have gloves and when you don't have gloves, because time limits and everything else, because jiu-jitsu works a lot better when I can elbow you in the back of the head.
Right.
To open up a choke. Exactly, right? You know that, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's different. It's a lot different. So jiu-jitsu is a lot more effective, you know, in a fight when you can do that. MMA, it's like already like with rules and different things, and it's for safety and things like that, and it's great. Like, of course, like guys are gonna be bad at, like you're gonna be the best in the game, but it's a little different, right? So I think in the early days, especially like in those days, like the '90s when it really started to explode, and even in the '80s, you know, I was talking to Leo Vieira, you know, one of the founders of Checkmat, or the founder of Checkmat. He was saying that he was like Valetudo. You were proving that jiu-jitsu worked in the street, jiu-jitsu worked in a real situation, and so that was a continuation of that. It was just on a bigger scale, and that's what marketed jiu-jitsu, right? Everybody had to learn this thing. This little Brazilian named Hoist Gracie was submitting all these guys, three guys in one night, and
representing the family too.
representing the family, right? Not a big muscular guy, right? Just a normal looking guy, right?
And he would go against big,
Juiced out dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was kind of like, that was still the Valtudo era. And then that continued on. And then there was a lot of, what do you call it? Pushback, or they got some enemies, right? Like the McCain, John McCain, they were trying to put UFC down, you know?
John McCain, the politician?
Yes, the Arizona, right? Like senator.
Oh, okay. All right.
Then just different people, right? And then they kind of went underground for a little bit, and so, but it was still like Valetudo, like people, they, you know, intertwined that, and the people that watched those early UFCs were, you know, attracted to that, and they want, like, I want to learn jiu-jitsu, and they knew about it, you know, hardcore martial art people, and then the 2000s, continuing that, it was 2005 when they had, through 2005, 2006 they had what do you call it? The Ultimate Fighter come out. 2005,
like
2006.
The first, you're talking about the reality TV show?
Correct.
It's that old.
Correct. 2005, 2006. Yeah, 2005, yeah. And so they had, because I was in New Mexico, right? And they had Diego Sanchez in the finals, and they had, oh my God, what are their names? With that crazy fight. Oh my God. You look it up, Kevin. I'll look it up. I'm going blank.
It wasn't BJ Penn for sure.
No, but it was
Clay Guida maybe.
No. It was middleweight. Oh my God.
Kenny Florian was on it too.
Kenny Florian fought Diego Sanchez, but it was that 185 fight, the Ultimate Fighter, the finale. No, not Ken Shamrock.
No, different weight classes.
The fight that made it get big. Forrest Griffith and
Stephen Bonner.
Stephen Bonner, exactly.
Oh, that's the fight you were talking. Okay.
And that's why they got into the, you know, the Hall of Fame, and they're like forever part of the growth. But that changed. That pretty much got jiu-jitsu, or not jiu-jitsu, but MMA in the mainstream. But it's all intertwined, you know. Do you understand? Because the jiu-jitsu people were representing it in a you know, Valetudo was very intertwined. And so when jiu-jitsu or when MMA turned into like a real sport through regulation, yeah, and through the Ultimate Fighter being on Spike TV, being on, you know, network TV, it started to become more and more mainstream. And then at the same time, they had these world championships, right? Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like IBJJF. Back, the first one they had was in 96, you know? And so 97 was the second, 98 was the third. And then in 2007, they moved the world championships, the IBJJF, the world championships, to the U.S. in Long Beach, you know? And so I know it's like a long story, but it's interconnected, right? Because you can't, there's no jiu-jitsu, there's no like jiu-jitsu as we know it without that history. That's why here and there I post like a Hoist Gracie video of him beating all the different styles, because you can't forget that, and that's why jiu-jitsu grew. The self-defense aspect, how it works in a real situation. And so you can't forget the roots and why this works, because people get so caught up into the sport aspect and winning and tournaments and sweeping, and man, I love it, right? I love it. But like the roots are that, and you can never forget that.
I didn't even know that you did MMA before, right?
I fought for like 10 years, yeah.
Well, okay, so was that Vale Tudo as well? Or
Well,
Vale
you know, by the time I fought, when they did my first fight was in 2002, and so they already had like the gloves and stuff. But I was still representing jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was representing jiu-jitsu. There weren't that many jiu-jitsu like high
Meaning
level
like
jiu-jitsu people like competing at and you know in cage fighting.
that was your base, like that. You know how like most fighters have one specialty.
Yeah,
Unless,
100%,
like,
100%. I was a like really a jiu-jitsu fighter. Like I basically did Brasileiro de Equipes in Brazil. Like, you know,
what is that?
IBGF. It was like a team Brazilian, like a Brazilian
Oh,
Brasileiro,
okay.
like the national championship in Brazil in June. No, sorry, May. I fought in June, and then I fought again in July at the Worlds. You know, so I was like completely just jiu-jitsu. Like even with the gi, you know, because they didn't have that many no gi tournaments yet. You know. So yeah, I was a complete jiu-jitsu fighter, and then of course I cross trained, and I was friends with Greg Jackson, and I cross trained with the guys, but I was really like
Jiu-jitsu
100%
base.
jiu-jitsu fighter, yeah.
How would you set up the actual jiu-jitsu if you don't mind me asking? Like
As far as closing the distance,
yeah.
I mean, I kind of keep it basic, right? And so at that level, right, you know, if they overcommit to throwing punches, you can just drop your level and you end up in like a double leg position. I can shoot from the very outside and do like a low single leg.
The John Smith.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
okay.
from very far away, you know, and I don't have to worry about a kick or a punch. And like when you watch Randy Couture fought that James Toney, it was
Oh, the
you know
boxer?
the boxer. Yeah, he did
Yeah.
a low single because he's like he gets hit once, that's it. You know, lights out, right?
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
lights out Tony, right? But it's lights out, and so low single, you know, double leg if they overcommit on the punches, or you punch into a clinch, you know, and then you know, 'cause of course there's like a million different ways, but those are like some basic ways, right, to close the distance, you know, that I found. You know, the old school stomp, right? Wes Gracie stomp, you know, or they're kind of
I
trying to
do
stomp
not
on
remember this was.
stomp on your knee, you know.
Oh,
So
man.
like they're kind of buckle your knee,
John
and that's
Jones.
well, you know, yeah, but the Hoist Gracie and those guys, all those Gracies, they would like,
They
you know,
kinda, like,
they
hop,
have that,
right?
you know, because
Yeah.
there's Valtudo days, right? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
different. It's a different thing, right? And so you don't want to get hit, so you have your head, your posture's up, right? Your hands are out, and then your foot stomping on the guy's knee, and then once the guy kind of goes back or whatever, moves back a little bit, then you close the distance on him, you know, and you close the gap and take him down, right?
Yeah, you know, now that you mention it, Hoist Gracie's style that was different too, because I didn't really see or watch like anybody else fight like that per se. You know,
I mean,
with
it's
that,
things
like,
have evolved, right?
that-
Things have
yeah.
evolved, and you know, Hansel Gracie and like much of the, you know, his brothers, just the family, right? Like they you have to evolve, right? You can't be doing because you figure out how to time it, how to, you know, counter like certain things. But it was so new at the time, and they did it for years and years and years, and it works, right? Obviously,
Now,
and
although
it still works. You know, we had Hoist
That's
Gracie out here like some years ago, and he was teaching that stomp, you know, to close the distance. And you know what? If you're in a fight situation, like no gloves and whatever, you know what, man? If the guy doesn't know what's going on, it's gonna work.
I was gonna say just that right now, that style would still work because the average person doesn't know how to
Yeah,
throw a punch,
for
right?
sure, for sure.
Most
You
of
just
the
boom,
time
you
they're
can
going to
push their knee,
swing.
for sure, for sure. Like one of my things, one of my things I like to do is like a teep, you know, like a front kick, you know.
Wait,
Just
rear or lead?
either one. Probably the rear if it's like you know, I'm in the street or whatever, just to get some you know, more. But either one, it depends on the situation. But yeah, just to keep the guy away instead of like the knee, you know. But I could do that too. But I would feel more comfortable doing like a teep. I would feel more comfortable.
Right,
to
right.
Close
And
the
then
distance and
closing
then
the
close it
distance,
from
yeah.
there. If I'm moving back or whatever, right?
So if you haven't like you fought in the cage, but did you ever have to use your jiu-jitsu, your skills out in the street to protect your family or yourself, like just randomly?
No, we've gotten into a couple like scuffles and stuff, you know. But no, you know, no.
Thankfully, yeah.
Yeah, thankfully, you know, I just been into a couple scuffles, like I said. But it's nice with jiu-jitsu because you have the option, right, to like you can control the guy, you don't have to hurt the guy. And you know what? It's not worth it, right? And yeah, I also have the confidence to just walk away from a situation if it's like, what's the point? Okay, I beat this guy up or whatever. Like, was it worth it? I mean, is it better just for me to walk away? I prove myself every day in the gym on the mat, in the cage and the, you know, like what do I have to prove?
Plus, we're tired.
What's that?
We're tired from training too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have nothing to prove. You're like, whatever, man. You know. And if the guy disrespects or does something and you don't have a choice, you know, you're backed into a corner. Yeah, of course, you know. But like, yeah, it's very rare that I think like a situation like that can happen, and it can happen. Of course, it can happen. And like we've been to a couple situations. I remember we went to the ADCC trials, North American trials. You had to they had to invite you back in the day, and there was like a street fight. I don't know why, but these guys came out of nowhere.
This is in Vegas?
No, this is in the small town in Canada.
Oh wow, okay.
Because they had the trials there for some reason. It was like at Vernon. I think it was in Vernon, Canada. Like it's like I don't know how many hours inland from Vancouver, exactly. It's like 3 hours or something inland. And we were there just, I mean, it was like the gnarliest grapplers of North America, right? And then these guys came out of nowhere with like 2x4s and looking for fights. I don't know. Like, I don't know if they were on high or what, you know? But it's the wrong group to mess with. But they came at us, you know, with like, you know, like with, a guy had a 2x4 and I think a chain. And looking,
it's like a movie.
Yeah, exactly. Here. It was funny, you know. It was funny because it was the wrong group to mess with, and you know, it was a short work, you know.
Yeah, it's funny because that reminds me too.
I'm sure because we were like, you imagine that going in?
It's like a movie scene.
I mean, because there was one bar there, you know, in the town, I think.
Yeah.
And so all of us ended up at this bar. And I don't know. I can't. Just, all of a sudden, these guys showed up and were looking to fight us. You know,
they probably heard then, because in a small town, mostly everybody knows them. You know, each other.
Me and they were like, oh, they wanted to prove themselves against us. You know, maybe. You know,
you're in the wrong town.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't take all. It didn't take too many of us. You know, yeah, but it was like, yeah.
It's funny because
close the distance, chains or not, you know, or a guy had a 2x4 and I think a guy had a chain. Maybe I'm wrong, but like I remember a chain, like a big one of those big like you know, Rampage Jackson like
for the necklace.
Yeah. Chains and a 2x4, you know.
I think there was a chainsaw too. No.
Could have been. Could have been, right? Could have been.
That reminds me too, because when I talk to people that don't train, they always like, and these are like friends that I have too. And then
how would you fight somebody with the chainsaw?
Number one, I am not afraid of running away. If you have like a chainsaw,
what if you don't have a choice? What if you're against the wall?
Against the wall?
Not against
like a chainsaw? A person with a chainsaw?
You're not against the wall, but you have stuff around you, but you can't really run. You know, you're kind of. I don't know. Like let's give a situation. Let's say you're out.
I love these.
Let's say you're out in the forest, right? And you have a guy with a chainsaw, and he's coming at you. What would you do?
Okay, so there's trees that I can use.
But there's a cliff behind you, so you can't run away.
Oh come on, Professor! Yeah. Come on. Okay, that's a good one. I think. How big is the guy?
He's pretty big. He's like 200 pounds, 185, 200 pounds.
And like farmer strength, you know what I'm talking about? Like they're just naturally strong.
Yeah, he's pretty strong. He's not weak, you know.
There's a cliff. Okay, so there's a cliff. There's trees I can use, and there's definitely at least like rocks or like pieces of bark, right?
Yeah.
So definitely pick some of those up. However, I'm gonna try to do that like that bull matador. If I can, if there's a cliff behind me, so I'm just gonna come get me,
like a football kind of like.
Yeah, but have him like actually rush towards me, so throw stuff at him, and then have him come like running towards me, and then at that point try to like at least like just
like a spin move and spin out of it.
Zip out, yeah, because I'm not gonna waste my time with someone that's much bigger. I already have like difficulty with like big people when I'm rolling with them, even when they're not trying, right? Because especially in gi. They're just holding on to you, right? They're just grabbing onto your gi, and they're just like putting their weight on you. And I'm like, I'm trying to move over here, you know. Yeah. But that's a scary moment because it's funny because me and my girl always watch horror movies, right? And some of those horror movies don't have like demons, right? It's just situations like that, right? Like you have a psychopath killer, but that psychopath killer is always like big. And he's always like hunting people that are smaller than him, right? Like
axes and chainsaws.
What are you gonna do? And then the thing is that most movies like that are based on 3 events. So that means that that has happened at a certain point, right? What are you gonna do? That's tough, you know. That's really tough, especially if that person knows that area really well, and you just happen to just be there, right?
And they're always running, right? And they always seem to like not run fast enough.
Wait,
They always get 'em.
the psychopath?
Yeah, like well, like the horror movies, right?
Yeah, or like you
They
have
always
keys
catch 'em,
and
you
they
know?
fall down.
Yeah,
and you're like,
man.
oh my god, I can't,
Yeah.
you know. I love horror movies. I don't know why. That's weird.
I thought you were gonna ask me what I would do in that situation, self-defense situation.
Well, I know what you would do. You just do like some sort of Uchimata. No, I'm like,
The
no,
chainsaw.
What would you do though? I mean, you
No,
have
for
a
sure.
chainsaw
I
right
would grab
there.
some rocks, hardcore, you know,
You
like
have to.
and like and just make them flinch, and then, yeah, man, like and bounce, like spin out of that position, or, you know, if I hit him good, and then I'll like
And just dart and just
yeah,
go.
yeah, for sure.
And that's funny because I'm gonna go back to that story too. That if I have like friends that don't train, which there's a lot of those friends, they always like want to play grapple, and then I always realize, oh, that's right. Like we're kind of freakishly strong. People that train, we don't
Yeah.
really necessarily do weights, but we're like wiry and strong. And they're always like, what's going on? I can't even move you.
Yeah,
You know, that's all the years like accumulated of just
Yeah.
you know, just force by force.
Yeah.
You know.
there was when I lived in New Mexico, I had a student. He was one of the founders of Dog Brothers, like
That
martial
sounds
arts.
familiar.
It's like the full contact stick fighting.
Stick fighting.
And so they were like pioneers. They even sent a letter to the early UFCs asking them to be part of the early UFCs in the cage. And they sent them back a later, like I sent them a letter back saying, you know, thank you so much for your interest. You know, at this time it's too extreme, you know, for us because we're getting a lot of opposition already. So we're gonna have to pass at this time. But basically, they made these VHS tapes, them fighting sticks versus like sticks, like collie sticks, you know. And then there's some VHS tapes of them fighting like people with whips, people with chains, you know, not a chainsaw. But I learned a lot because he was one of my students. So I did a couple of those like full contact stick fighting things.
How big are these sticks? Like as far as feet?
I don't know, like
Okay, just
3
enough to
feet.
wield.
I don't know, yeah, 3 feet, yeah. And so I you know, you learn about timing.
As far as like swinging or just the counter to.
Yeah, I mean like a whip, right? Yeah, you could whip it, and then you boom, like a whips the whip, and then okay, he has
And it
to,
takes time to come back.
and that's when you
right?
close the distance. So same thing with the chainsaw, right? He comes down with he takes a swing at you, and like, you know,
It's do or die. You gotta
yeah,
go.
you're gonna close the distance, or if you don't have a choice, or you just, you know, you dip if you don't have that rock, you know,
That's crazy.
or you know, do some kind of
Imagine the UFC with the stick fighting.
yeah, it would have been banned right away for sure.
Did you have like a favorite fighter growing up?
A fair what?
A favorite fighter?
Growing up, like
In or
I
out
mean,
of the
I
UFC?
think Mike Tyson. You know, I think Mike Tyson. He was the first fight I saw. It was the first, you know.
The brutality, huh?
You know, I just never saw any fights, and I went to my uncle's house, and for some reason, it was like a big thing. Like my mom, like all of us went over there, and it was I think him versus Spinks. You know, it was like over like in 15 seconds. And it was, you know, I just remember watching him, and I was like, and they showed some highlights and stuff and things, and I was like, wow, I was like mesmerized, you know.
Yeah, that's something else. What he embodied, what he was able to do physically was almost like you can't replicate that.
Yeah.
He was just born that way, and obviously he refined that technique with the coaching that he had.
Yeah.
But that was scary. I've seen videos of that. That's scary, like him taking out
Imagine.
people like that.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And I know he just recently had a fight, but you know, you can't compare that to like when he was like in his 20s.
Yeah, for sure.
Like annihilating everything in his path.
For sure.
You know.
Can you imagine looking across the ring at Mike Tyson coming at you?
No, thanks. He's still an imposing figure, even like at 60. I've heard stories that he'll still like stare you down if he feels that he's been disrespected. You know, he'll stare you down. But you know, we know jiu-jitsu. You know.
Yeah, he's raw. He's raw.
Yeah, just
He's
that
real.
primal. He always taps into that. You know,
Yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah. They said that in the first round or second round, like he was kind of.
For this fight, the last fight.
Yeah. He came in with like the hook, and then it was almost he could have like nailed Jake Paul, and then he's like, hey man, supposedly they said he whispered in his ear like, hey man, take it easy, and then after that he like kind of started biting his glove, right, and then kind of didn't let go. Of course he got tired and whatever. He was like 60, right, 60 whatever, or 58 whatever. But yeah, that's what some people were saying. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, look, I'm not gonna confirm nor deny, but someone told me that quite a few people told me that it was like fake. The whole thing was set up. It was scripted, and that initially it disappointed me, but it is what it is. But now that I think about it, like looking back, yeah, it might have been scripted because biting the glove and
I think because he couldn't control his like primal urges, right? So he was biting the glove just to kind of compensate, not to like go nuts on him, supposedly.
yeah. I mean, if it is fake,
That would make sense, right? That would make sense. What do you think, Evan?
if it is fake, what is fighting anymore at that point?
Man, like that it was the most viewed fight ever, I think. The most views.
No
yeah.
way over Conor McGregor.
I mean, just like out of the park, out of like not even close.
And it was on a new platform too, which was Netflix.
But it was their first like sporting event because they're gonna have NFL, they're gonna have a lot of
WWE too now.
Correct, yeah, they're gonna have all these different things, and so that was a foray into like sports, and their first event was Mike Tyson and Jake Paul.
Well, they accomplished their goal.
Yeah, I mean the thing crashed. I wasn't able to watch it.
Oh, it did for you.
Yeah. We were in Chicago and we were trying to watch it. And
it's funny that you're saying that because for us it was lagging too. It was just like glitching.
Yeah.
And
So it ended up pretty much shutting down. We were trying to watch it on YouTube and whatever people were trying to stream it, but it was like people in the audience, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
Did you break your TV?
What's that? Nah.
Darn it.
We tried and then we're just like, whatever, we'll watch it tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it was good, man. It was good. People were excited about it. It's Mike Tyson.
I mean, that's why I watched it.
What's cool was like, I mean, didn't matter. He won either way, because he made a lot of money. But it doesn't take anything away from his legacy. Yeah. He's a savage and people are excited about it, man. Everybody that I know, like, they were excited about the fight. Like, they were pissed at Jake Paul and this and that, or they were like excited for Mike Tyson, and you know what I mean. Like it was like they were hyped about it. And that's great, man. That's amazing.
You know, it's funny because like you were saying, a lot of people either hate or love Jake Paul, but you have to hand it to that guy. He knows how to market. I mean, I'm watching. I was watching. I watch most of his fights. Yes, I know he's not like a legit like boxer, but
I mean, I'm watching. They're athletic, man. They're athletic, and
both of them.
Says
they're
not good fighters. Yeah.
Professor, I have a question for you.
What's up? Shoot.
Have you ever had a fake black belt come into your gym?
A fake black belt.
I've seen memes of like fake black belts getting exposed and acting like they're black belts, and you're like, you're not a black belt. I can feel this.
It's interesting, right? That's interesting, because I have actually, and because you asked them, okay, where did you get your who did you train with? Who did you get your black belt with? And they started making up these different stories, and it's very easy to know because what years? Because I know, you kind of know everybody in different years, and
it's a small world.
It's a small world, even though it's like that many people, like, especially like, who was Wu and what years. People like to use like big names like Renzo Gracie.
Right. Yeah.
And they think, because it's such a big gym, like thousands of people training there. And then now who, like what years were you there? Did you know, like, and then you're like, they're like making up stuff. You're like, okay, he's like, it's funny. It's funny. I can only laugh at it.
This happened here?
I'm not sure if it was here, but maybe it was here. A guy stopped in and he was like, I was like, oh, where did you train, or where are you from? I'm just being friendly, and then they started like, oh yeah, I trained with Hank. I got my black belt from, I think we said Henzo, or I was like, oh, Henzo, and then he changed it a little bit to one of Henzo's black belts, and black belt, who was it? And And what years and were you train? You know, and then it didn't make sense at all.
And this was just.
And then he saw me like kind of like just because I know everybody. I just know too many people.
And if you don't know that person, you definitely know someone that would know that.
Yeah,
person
I can make a phone call. Yeah, I can make a phone call in a second. You know.
What, did he partake?
And I call.
in the
I make phone
class?
calls sometimes. You know, like Matt Serra, one of his black belts this year, and I called him like, hey man, I'm here with Nicky Knuckles. You know, hey, you know.
Oh yeah, he's there.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's a good excuse to call somebody, right?
Yeah.
And then to have somebody say like all these weird stories, it's funny. I can only laugh at it because it's funny, but it's like sad too, right? Because
I mean,
whatever.
that's a psychological.
It's just funny. It's just funny because whatever. Like it isn't.
Did he partake in the class and then you found out during the rolls or something?
Well, it's not so much like maybe they can be athletic, maybe they can be like tough guys, you know, but the relationships and there's deeper things I think that a black belt means. And to me, that like it doesn't that's the weird that's the thing, right? That like makes it like funny and weird, because it's you need partners, you need like you need like it's like a culture,
Right.
and so he's kind of trying to bypass it or try to say that he was, and I guess I look at it as funny.
There's no other way, and luckily nothing happened from that situation.
Yeah. I don't think otherwise. Like, I'm sure people go around and like in smaller towns, I hear about it, and they try to pretend that they're black belts or they're certain people. I think maybe back in the day more, like those McDojo stories, like fake black belts and guys that try to say they're this and they're that. But today with the internet and social media,
the beauty of the internet, you can find pretty much anything.
It's so fast, and that word will spread fast.
Yeah, it's I'm glad it's a beautiful thing and a horrible thing at the same time, right?
Yeah,
right.
I think that situation was like maybe like 8 or 10 years ago. Maybe it was more.
And that was the only time it happened, though.
Yeah.
That at least that you like.
Just because I've always been like I've always been right there with like the kind of the maybe like elite people. So I never like got exposed to somebody like nobody would even try to say something. I guess maybe early on in the days, people would like be different types of martial artists, and they would say like, "Oh yeah,
I can take you."
Yeah, well, that we had that people they would come in, they want to challenge you,
like off the street. You're talking about?
Yeah. We used to have that. We used to have that at the beginning. People want to see how it worked. If it worked, I was giving people VHS tapes of like Gracie in action, and then like there was a documentary called Choke from Hicks and Gracie.
Oh, it's based off of the book too, right? Or is that?
Well, it's not a book. It's not. He has a book now, right? But it was about his journey to like about him, and then also his wave training, and then fighting in the pre-Pride events like Vale-Tudo, Japan.
Does he go over the breathing techniques that
he does? He talks about breathing and just the different types of movements. He was ahead of the game, and he was the champion of the family. And he speaks really well. I actually got my mom kind of on board with the whole jiu-jitsu thing.
Oh, even
because he was really well spoken. Yeah, because my mom was like, "What is this? Like fighting stuff? Like this is crazy. You need to go to school. You need to." And then she watched the videos, like, "Oh, he's well spoken," and he convinced her that it was a good thing.
That's interesting that you're saying that. I watched a lot of like I personally like to watch a lot of like YouTube videos of like Gordon Ryan, like breakdown, Mikey Musumeci. And there's like a plethora of things that they do so well, and there's only so much you can absorb because of your style and your body type, right?
Yeah.
But like, there's so many people that we can look up to now, like on the internet too.
Yeah. There's and you were asking me, going back to your question, how it is now. So I said a long-winded story, but basically, back in the day, you had to find a guy selling VHS tapes out of his car in Brazil to get like video content or buy VHS tapes, or I would record like the sport TV that had jiu-jitsu matches to kind of study stuff, or you would have to learn it from a guy, that master, you'd have to learn it from somebody personally, you know. And so stuff is a lot like slower moving now. Like you're instantly watching the
Yes.
stuff live. You're watching stuff before, even in the tournaments at the gyms.
On
Like,
your opponent too.
yeah, and your
It's pretty
opponent.
much
It's
like,
all there. You know, it's all there. So just things are moving have moved a lot faster.
where do you think the future is going for jiu-jitsu now?
The future, you know, I think just we were talking earlier about the the Vale-Tudo and the MMA, and I think just like sports jiu-jitsu, it's like its own thing. Back in the day, it was like very intertwined. It was almost the same thing.
Like self-defense, right?
Yeah, yeah, and there's like I think the sport jiu-jitsu aspect, and there's like different factions, right? There's gi, no gi, even the whole ADCC rules, right? So I think just things will be more refined, you know, and then I think there's going to be some outliers like the Bertulli brothers that can do it all, you know, gi, no gi, and they mix it up, and I like to think of myself as that kind of type of person, but I think things will be more refined, you know. In those aspects, you know. But yeah,
Were you one of the people that did not like Craig Jones' CJI?
at first, listen, like when Kevin they first told me about it, I was kind of upset because I got stem cells with Mo Lawal, the
okay.
ADCC, you know. And so I consider him a friend. And then I was like, man, like he's worked so hard and spent all this money on promoting ADCC because just a few years before, man, there was like in China, nobody cared, you know. And then they kept upgrading like the production and stuff, you know. They had it in Anaheim, and then they had the one at the UNLV in Vegas, you know. And then they were like they got the T-Mobile Arena, you know. So I was like, oh man, they're working so hard to grow the sport. And then the Craig Jones thing, I was like, man, they're kind of like putting it down. But then it was like, man, it was like hype, you know. It was like hype. It was like getting eyes on the sport, you know. And so I know, like, you know, like the you know, people are up to get it. Well, I'm sure, like, of course, get upset, but it was, you know, it's like a lot of but it's just hype, you know. It was like hype, and it was good for the sport.
Yeah,
Like
did you catch it?
I watched all of it. You know, I watched ADCC and I watched Craig Jones. You know, and it was exciting, and it was cool. You know, the way they had that arena, the match. You know, like the karate combat. Yeah, it's like it was cool, man. They elevated the game, and it was something to look at. You know, it was something to look at and grow from. You know, so man, I was like. I loved it. I loved it all. Then we had Nicky Rod come out here like the week after he won that Craig Jones, you know.
Here?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And
Okay.
trained, just stopped in Burbank, and hey, you know, a place to train. And everybody hit him up. Hey, come over to Legacy, and he came over and trained with everybody. And yeah, man, it's phenomenal, man. Phenomenal that they have money prizes like that, and just the whole
Healthy
thing.
competition.
Yeah, and it was just like. It was just good vibes, you know. It was good vibes and got hype, got eyes, got people interested into the sport, you know, which is that's all I care about. That's what
It also showed you, at least that event, obviously ADCC, every time they, you know, they have, you know, their event, it shows, you know, how good people are. But for that one, I remember Andrew Tackett, like just being a burgeoning star there, the Rotolo brothers right there.
Yeah.
And then I was really intrigued with Fionn Davis versus I forgot her, the UFC fighter.
Mackenzie Dern.
Mackenzie Dern.
Yeah,
I
that was
would have put
yeah.
money on Mackenzie Dern, but
yeah,
no.
but she, you know, she's not she's like you know, because she's not doing as much jiu-jitsu, you know, and so just to be fair to her, and you know, she's like, I'm not sure the age difference, you know, that makes that much difference, but she's focused on, you know, different sport, you know.
Yeah. The fighting portion.
Yeah, if she was more just focused on jiu-jitsu and also where she's at, she's not as hungry, right? She's already like a ADCC champ and world champ and UFC fighter. You know, she's in a different place, I think, you know, just to give Mackenzie, because I love Mackenzie. And
yeah, she's one of my favorite fighters.
Yeah,
she comes to like brawl.
Yeah,
like, she comes to fight.
I was surprised too, and I didn't like seeing it, you know.
But it just shows you how good Fionn Davis is.
For sure,
too.
no doubt, man. She's a beast, you know. She's a beast.
It's funny because when I saw Andrew Tackett, the one thing I got from him, because I was telling you that I try to like take something from everyone. Do you remember that he was doing like that Wagner Roca type of like smother when he was fighting Rotolos? And then everybody else, he would just smother, and he would just be mean. But I like that style. I know some people are like, hey, that's mean. Like, but that's what would you do if that happened out on the street?
It works, yeah, it works for sure. It can work.
Yeah,
It's funny because we had a thing here. We had an in-house tournament. You know, everybody's supposed to be like a good sport, and they called it like Mufflegate. Because another one female was doing it to another one, you know, and there's being kind of like dirty or rough or whatever. But you know, it's like, man, it's like it's in this it's tournament. It's like it's not a big deal.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It's jiu-jitsu, right? You can't take it that serious, and it's not like somebody's hurting the other person, you know. But it was funny, you know, just all the reactions and stuff, the good and bad and whatever, everything in between.
And then eventually it just ends up becoming part of the sport, like a normal thing, like leg locks. I remember that was like, no, you cannot do leg locks. And then now almost everybody's doing them.
Yeah, back in the 90s and early 2000s, people would boo if you tried a leg lock. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, just because it was a cheap way to win.
That's the thing that bothers me, the cheap or like I don't know, like a non-honorable way to win. That always has bothered me. It's still a submission to me.
No, for sure. And it evolved, right? And then ADCC and just it evolved. The sport evolved, and now, man, like you cannot like not learn leg locks, right? It's part of the game. It's intertwined with the game, and things change. You know, things evolve. Just like MMA and UFC and jiu-jitsu, everything else, right? Gi and no gi. So I think just you asked me also like where I think it's going. I think it's going, and it's evolving, getting better and better and better. People are learning faster and faster and faster, and then probably like the Matrix, where you just put in a little chip and think I'm going to be a black belt. And so it took you how many years?
Yeah,
12 years or whatever. And so you learn it in whatever, like a minute, you know, or 30 seconds even, or 10 seconds. I don't know.
And now
have all that knowledge.
Like little kids learning that. Like I'm talking like 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. And they're becoming monsters already, you know, and they're already going to be world champions in their respective right by the age of what 15, 16.
Yeah, I think, you know, I'm talking a lot. I want to ask you. I want to go back to you, you know.
Yeah.
But one of the things is, you know, how is it going to change? And I think technology is changing everything in our life, you know. And one of the beautiful things I love about jiu-jitsu is that there is no technology on the mat. It's just me and another person, or me and other people, and there's no like technology, right? So it there's no distractions, and you're like completely present in the moment. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because we're on technology. We're just like in other places, you know. But we're like on the ground. We're together. You know, it's a unique thing.
And you still have that passion. That's good.
You feel it?
Yeah, you know, I mean, because I told you earlier too, like I've met so many people that have come and gone. Yeah. They've stayed in it for 5 years, maybe 6, and then they just dip out, you know, because life gets in the way, right?
No, I'm all in, man, for life, and I love this so much. I believe in this so much. This is what the world needs, you know, this type of jiu-jitsu, combat training. They need it, man. They need it. It makes the world a better place. And somebody like yourself, who has dedicated themselves like these many years and committed to the black belt and gotten the black belt, it really means a lot. And that's why I want to spend some time talking to you about it, you know?
Yeah. Thank you. This is something that I don't really see myself doing anything else as far as, you know, 9 to 5, I'm not going to, you know, rain on their parade, but this is something that I truly enjoy doing.
Awesome.
Not just that, but helping people with their fitness, their health, just helping people out that way. You know, that's my zone. That's my place. That's where I feel the most happiest. And it's odd. And I want to say odd because everybody's you know, mostly everyone I know has a 9 to 5, right? So sometimes you feel out of place. Like, is this the right thing that I'm doing? You know? Yeah. But I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, some people, right, they have like, I mean, whatever, they have crazy jobs and they like their job, right? But they also love jiu-jitsu and they love this, right?
Yeah.
And it makes them better at their job, right?
Yes, that's true. It does give you like that mental fortitude, and I don't think people really like understand that.
Yeah. And during the pandemic, you know, listen, man, like I was ready to do a 9 to 5 and then give somebody a key to open up the class at noon, and the party was gonna continue at night because I believe in this, you know? You know what I mean?
Yeah. But you weren't open, just remember, just on the record.
Yeah, we're not. You know, listen, I'm not going anywhere. You know, this is I believe in this. I believe in this, and so
You're expanding too. I was gonna ask you, 'cause I know this is you're gonna ask me questions too, but did you know that you wanted to like expand? Like number one, just being legacy, and then when did you realize you wanted to actually just like go to different locations and you know?
no, I don't. I just you know one day at a time. But I always had a mentor when I was like 18, and he always told me to like think big, you know, and this and that. But I definitely do not think about that. It's just about one person helping people reach their best, and however that means, you know, like I want to see people grow and reach their potential. If that means having a school, if that means not having a school and going a different way, you know, it
Yeah,
doesn't define somebody, you know.
you're there to support.
Yeah,
And just
support and see them grow and do their best and be their best.
I love that.
You know, like I have some black belts that I, you know, when I was younger, I used to think everybody should have their school, and as I've gotten older, like not everybody should have their school,
Or not all of them want it.
right? Correct. And because you know, like they do better, like in another situation. You know, I've had them open up a school, and they were doing better when we were together. You know, we were doing stuff together. It's very interesting, you know, and so it was better for the person, better for everybody, better for me too, but better for everybody, you know.
Yeah, that's something that I want to get into though,
Mm-hmm.
as far as the business side of it too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the next chapter of my life too, helping people number one,
Mm-hmm.
but also understanding like the business of just expansion and just that ambition, just
Yeah.
leaning into that ambition, you know.
Yeah, it's not like ambition. I just want to help people. I want to help people. My north star, my passion. You know,
And then everything else just falls
yeah,
in
it just
place.
falls in place.
Oh, I see.
It just falls in place.
I love that. I really do. Wow.
So tell me about you. Tell me more about you.
What do you want to know?
Like,
There's so much.
Where are you from?
LA, right here.
Okay.
Born and raised.
We're in LA.
Are you familiar with Echo Park?
Of course.
Echo Park, and then I was actually in between Echo Park and MacArthur Park.
That's
so-
close to where Professor Mark grew up, you know?
Oh
Yeah, Aurora
yeah,
Village, yeah.
we've heard some stories right there. I had no
Yeah.
idea he grew up like that too, and that's what like made me resonate with him and the crew out there too. You know, like so. I mean, I didn't grow up in a per se. Everyone has their background. You know, much respect to that too. But I didn't grow up in like a completely positive environment, and then
For sure.
completely positive family either. And there's only two things as I was like when I was a teenager that saved me, and I really truly do believe that is number one is music. People that know me, they understand that because I actually played in a group, a few groups, drums. That saved me. And then when I found jiu-jitsu and fighting, like, actual
What kind of
sport
music?
fighting. Metal. I grew up with metal,
Okay.
like Slayer, even some death metal in there too. And a lot of punk. Is it just, it spoke to me at that point, at that time, But that it was music and jiu-jitsu, and then slowly but surely jiu-jitsu, because I was helping so many people out, and that actually gave me some sort of like fulfillment there. It just it felt good. It felt really good, and I continue that too.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
I love that.
Echo Park. Shout out to Echo Park and
A lot
Lincoln.
of backyard shows there, by the way, too. Punk backyard shows. I remember those.
Nice. Nice. What do you do now for work and things like that?
I work with home security, so like setting up like cameras and televisions, and I like it. However, it doesn't speak to me like this. So I know that eventually I want to open up some schools, at least one to start off, obviously, and just continue to help people that way, and not just with like jiu-jitsu, just working out in general, and just staying like, staying mentally fit, because it starts from your mind. Then once you go from the mind, then you can work on your body. But we need healthier people here, and that's what I want to do, help people out with that.
Awesome. What was do you remember your first submission that you got on somebody?
I actually think it was a Kimura from guard. I think it was a Kimura from guard. And if it wasn't that, then it was probably the RNC. But I'm thinking that it was the actual Kimura from
Without saying the name, do you remember who it was?
No, I don't. That's actually very vague for me. Like even the submission itself, but I think it was the Kimura.
Kevin, do you remember? Do you remember your first submission?
I remember my first brown belt. I remember my first color belt, not my
First color against his submission against his first color belt.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, he remembers that.
It's you know what?
What was the moment that you remember then? Out of
It's funny that you're saying that though, because we're taught not to really like think about it that way, as far like, oh, I submitted a higher belt, but you do remember those.
the things that mean something, yeah.
You know, do you want to gloat about it? No, but you remember, oh, I'm actually getting better.
Yeah.
No, but you remember, you know if they tried or didn't try, you remember the real, like, catch.
Yeah.
I got that.
Yeah,
He
you
remembers
do.
it, yeah. I was gonna say, I remember like my friend who invited me to do jiu-jitsu, he armbarred me like 10 times. So it was like a thing that I'll never forget because I couldn't believe it. I was like, let's go again. And he armbarred me again. Let's go again. And like I couldn't believe it. I was like, man, I have to learn this, you know.
That was me and Ralph.
There you
But
go.
I got upset. I legitimately would get upset, and he would just laugh. But that's part of it, right?
Yeah,
You either leave with a bruised ego, or you just like want to figure this out,
exactly.
you know. And I loved it. I don't know.
It's awesome. You chose to go for it.
Yeah, and then I just got better. But I was also thrown in with the wolves too, because the only people I was training with was just higher belts too. That was Ralph, that was Johnny, that was the professor I had there too, and a few other new students. But all the time just rolling with them, rolling. So I got a little faster, and I got better faster too. But then the injuries, I remember the first major injury I got, and it's my left shoulder. Like I tore my rotator cuff, and I was out for like 6 months.
Wow.
Wow, like almost hitting depression type of thing, you know, because I love it.
Yeah.
You know, you love it at that point, but then you find different things, different ways to like, you know, pass the time as far as like rehab goes, you know, like hanging from bars, you know, a lot of like calisthenic type of workouts and a lot of resistance bands and stuff like that. But it's time. You got to respect the injury if you want to come back, right? So now I know if I feel something coming on, like if there's like an injury or like my rib feels odd, just take time out.
Yeah. Take it easy.
Don't just come back in there and say like, oh, I can handle it, and then you're out another 6 months. Just take like the 1 week off. Trust me, you're gonna come back stronger. You're giving that time.
How did you find Professor Mark Bradford and Legacy West Adams?
Oh, I said it at the speech for the black belt, but literally I was supposed to just visit that one Sunday. It was like an open mat.
Okay.
And where I trained, I still train there too because I have two schools, one for Nogi and one for Gi.
Okay.
And I'm with 10th Planet West LA under Scott Epstein. And right there, we share the mats with Beverly Hills Jiu-Jitsu Club.
Marcus Vinicius.
Yes.
Is he still around?
Yes. That's the dad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then he had a son, but the son moved somewhere in Asia. I forget. I don't want
Is the dad still there though?
Yeah, he's still there. He still runs it.
Wow.
So we share the mats there, and then one of his black belts, Chris.
Is it on La Cienega?
Yes, and Whitworth.
Okay.
He invited me over, and then he had invited me like 3 times, and I just never really, you know, got around to it until the 3rd time. And then I go over there, but at that point it was called Clube, right? And then he told me that you guys had a conversation about changing the name too.
We went to ADCC. Yeah. I'm like,
No way.
why are we doing this? Because we're all trained together. We're like the same family,
Yeah.
you know. He's super loyal. We're all like, you know, we're like this, you know. And I just like it's brought up. It's like, and he was like, man, like he was like, he didn't have an answer. And then the next day he calls me. He's like, you know, I couldn't like I was thinking about it too.
Yeah.
I was wondering, could we do that? And he talked to Lulu, his partner, you know,
yeah.
and talked to her first, and then they.
I mean, I
Made it
like it.
official.
I like it because I always had trouble pronouncing Clube anyhow. But it was once I arrived there, I remember Professor Mark greeting me. Lulu was there too, and then it was full. It was a full open mat, I enjoyed it, but not just that. It was the family orientation of it, and it's hard to explain for people that don't understand. If you don't really have that or come from that, when you feel something like that, you're like, whoa, you kind of just gravitate towards it, especially it depends on your the point of life you're in. But I loved it and how welcoming they were. And then from there, I remember I showed up another Sunday and I decided to just talk to them like, hey, I want to have 2 black belts, one nogi and one gi. And I talked to them about hey, what do you think about, like overseeing my belting? I'm not like telling you to do it, and just what do you think of it, and if you feel, you okay with that? And he said, yeah, just come to class. That's all I want. Then we can discuss. So I started coming to class, and same situation, that feeling, I didn't want it to go away, and it's remained. It's family oriented.
Awesome.
And that's what drew me to it, and then from there, just helping people out too, and you see the kids and the families there, and you're like, oh, all right, I like this, it's history since,
Awesome, man. Good.
I love it. Yeah.
Good, man. Well, congratulations on following through, and the best is yet to come, right?
Yeah, this is just the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's it. That's what I want to do.
Awesome, man. How can people find you?
They can reach out to me on Instagram, Savage Stone Jiu-Jitsu, and from there, just say hi. That's it. If you want, if you guys need help with anything, just let me know.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. Thank you
for having me.